Hello and welcome to Youthful Longevity with Dr. Norm Shealy. I'm Lisa LaRose and I'm joined with Amanda Fregon. And it's such a pleasure to have you with us today. So many of us in today's society, we strive, we see the latest creams, the latest serums, whatever will keep us, young and healthy. But there's so much more to that. There's so much more to what it means to live vibrantly and youthfully. And we're so blessed to have with us Dr. Norm Shealy, the father of holistic medicine, who really embodies what it means to live a full, vibrant life well into his late 80s. And although chronologically, I would say probably about 26, biologically, chronologically is something different. So welcome, Dr. Shealy.
Always a pleasure, Lisa. Actually, other than electricity, which has been a big part of my life, the whole concept of health, just pure being healthy, no matter how long you live, I would say has always been at the top of my list of important things. Growing up, I was a very, very healthy child with very nurturing parents, and I think that is, by the way, the foundation for lifelong health. If you were wanted by your parents, if they are healthy and happy and are nurturing, the chances are great that you will also be healthy and nurturing. Unfortunately, a minimum of 40% of Americans are unwanted when they're born. And then even of the 60% who were more or less wanted when they were conceived, a significant percentage do not have living environments, if you will, with their parents that are nurturing. My favorite statement maybe in my entire life is I did not have the courage to choose abusive parents.
Mm-hmm.
I had over-nurturing parents, and I'd far rather be over-nurtured than under-nurtured or abused.
Mm-hmm.
It is a little embarrassing when you're 16 years old and your mother brings lunch to school because she doesn't want you to eat the school lunch. But you live through that kind of...
That's so sweet.
Well, but you get teased by your classmates, mommy's boy. But hey, I'd rather be teased for that than be abused.
Right.
And my father was equally the same way. For instance, when I was 16, he said, "Well, Norman, if you will not smoke or drink until you're 21, I'll give you $1,000." That's 1949. That was a big meeting in those days.
Wow.
And, of course, he could have paid me $10,000 to smoke, but he did, of course, pay off when I hit 21. And it was that kind of thing growing up. So if you didn't have that kind of parent, then you need to spend some time in spiritual study and practice in order to overcome that and learn the lesson that you can from this life despite the fact that you didn't have nurturing parents. And, of course, the essential habits. You can't be healthy to any age if you don't have the following habits. And the top of the list in today's world is a body mass index 18 to 24. 72% of Americans are overweight. It is the number one cause of major disease, the number one cause of diabetes, the number one cause of hypertension other than drugs, and the number one cause of premature death in today's world. So you must strive to have a body mass index of 18 to 24. The second one is eating a minimum of 5 to 8 or 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. The average American gets 2.2. If you're not going to eat more veggies and fruits, then you should take ORAC Energy Greens. One scoop of that will give you 6 servings of fruits and vegetables in a tablespoon, actually probably about a teaspoon of dried powder. And you can also add red tart cherry juice concentrate. 2 tablespoons of that will give you the equivalent of 3.5 servings of fruits and vegetables. So just adding the tart cherry juice concentrate and the ORAC Energy Greens will give you enough fruits and vegetables. You don't have to eat it at all. It's that simple. Next and most important is physical activity. You must physically exercise, not just be up and about, actually slightly increasing your speed of being up and about. I don't care if it's a brisk walk, if it's standing on a vibratory plate and moving your arms, doing something physically active. 30 minutes, 5 days a week. That's minimum. That's like breathing as far as physical exercise is concerned. And only 10% of Americans get that much exercise. And finally, of course, is sleeping 7 or 8 hours every night. I cannot overemphasize these 5 most essential health habits. You can't be healthy to any age if you do not have these 5 habits. So start your life for healthy longevity by agreeing and doing the 5 essential habits. Now, over the last 15 years, I have worked extensively with doing things that will possibly increase your health and longevity. And the first of those was enhancing DHEA, dehydroepiandrosterone, the anti-stress hormone, the most important hormone in your body. Now, in my patients, no matter what they come with to our clinic, 80% have a lower than healthy level of DHEA. Interestingly, the free DHEA healthy level in men is 750 to 1,250 nanograms per deciliter, and in women, 550 to 950 nanograms per deciliter. Virtually none of my patients have that level. I found 4 ways that will increase your DHEA safely and naturally. One of my favorite statements is, make it, don't take it. Make it in your own body. And the first of those was natural progesterone cream. Interestingly, women stop making progesterone when they go through the menopause. And I figure, well, maybe men don't as well. So I tested 12 men who had low levels of DHEA, and they were indeed low, and they gave all of them natural progesterone cream. It's the only hormone I personally like and recommend for men and women.
Okay.
And taking EU, U means true, progesterone, daily, raised their DHEA a whopping 60%.
Wow. Wow.
And safely. Then I discovered that 86% of our patients were deficient in magnesium. And I discovered that oral magnesium is a waste of money and time. But magnesium lotion, the Shealy magnesium lotion applied to the skin, raises the DHEA another 60%.
Wow.
And it's good for arrhythmia, local muscle pain, irregular heartbeat of all kind, including atrial fibrillation. You know, it's an essential for life itself. Next came Youth formula, Shealy Youth, Y-O-U-T-H formula. And that consists of 2 grams of vitamin C and 1 gram of MSM, methylsulfonomethane, with a little bit of beta-glucan and a little molybdenum. But the essential thing is vitamin C alone will not do it, MSM alone will not do it, but the 2 together, 1 gram of MSM, 2 grams of vitamin C, will raise your DHEA 60%. And finally, transcutaneous acupuncture, Fire Bliss, a mixture of essential oils that you put under 12 specific acupuncture points. It takes 30 seconds a day to do that. And in 1 month, it will raise DHEA another 60%. Now, if you do all 4 of these techniques for raising your DHEA, it actually raises the total DHEA, not just 240, but even 250%. I'm sorry. Yeah, 4 times 60 is 240 plus 10, so 250%. And that was the foundation for my book, Life Beyond 100. When I finished the research on this, I said, well, if we just do this, we ought to live at least 120 years. Now, interestingly, I think my all-time favorite quote from the Bible is in chapter 6 of Genesis, where, among other things, it mentions that the sons of God came down to earth and mated with women. But the statement I like most, and it says the life expectancy of humans will be 120 years. It says that right in chapter 6 of Genesis. And so, to me, we know genetically that you are born with DNA. Every cell in your body that has DNA in it has an eraser on it called a telomere. And it's like the eraser on your pencil. In healthy individuals, your telomeres decrease 1% every year of life. So we are clearly genetically destined to live 100 years if we have healthy habits. But we have demonstrated, first of all, with these 4 techniques of DHEA, and that's our original research, we could increase or regrow our telomeres 3.5% a year. And that means in 10 years, you have gained the equivalent of 35 years of telomere life. So if you do this for at least, and you've got other healthy habits, of course, if you do this for at least 10 years, you can regrow your telomeres at least 35%. And I have done that. Now, interestingly, when a major stress occurs, like the death of my wife 10 years ago, I lost 20%. Then I regrew them again. And then 4.5 years ago, I had major surgery on my back, and I lost another 12 years, but regained it again. So major trauma can certainly decrease your telomere strength. Interestingly, we've done some remarkable research during the last 18 months, demonstrated that the average person appears to be losing telomeres at far greater than 1% a year now, up to 4 or 5% because of the fear epidemic created by the current pandemic and all the media associated with it. In fact, one study shows that nationally, significant anxiety has gone from 11% to 41% of the population. That's virtually a 4-fold increase in significant anxiety. And anxiety is the number one emotional reaction to stress. The number one, really, cause of illness. Sir William Osler, the father of American medicine, wrote about this about 1908. Stress as the major cause of disease. That stress causes anxiety, and that leads to hypertension. It leads to depression. It leads to diabetes in adulthood. It leads to, obesity. It leads to every known disease, including cancer and heart disease. You can't afford the luxury of anxiety or depression. So, almost, we are within 2 weeks of the 50th anniversary of my making the decision that somebody has to find out how you can treat chronic disease without drugs or surgery. Again, in acute illness, the brief illness, drugs and surgery may save your life. In chronic disease, they shorten your life. There's no drug that has ever been proven to improve potential longevity. Not one in the world. Every known drug, from aspirin to ibuprofen to every prescription drug known, eventually causes complications. Interestingly, for instance, the number one cause of hypertension appears to be anti-anxiety drugs. about 50% of people with hypertension developed it when put on anti-anxiety drugs. And the antihypertensive drugs properly, successfully treat only 45% of those with hypertension. That means 55% of people only get the complications. And the people taking the drug successful and otherwise have a complication rate that stands near 100% of chronic fatigue. I haven't ever seen anybody on antihypertensive drugs for some years who isn't chronically fatigued. And, of course, a number one contribution to erectile dysfunction in men. So I have weaned scores, hundreds of people really off antihypertensive drugs safely now, as I have with type 2 diabetes, etc. So what we need for healthy, youthful longevity is all of the good health habits, and then we need to add restoring our DHEA in all the ways that are possible. Now, we also have demonstrated that certain types of electricity can restore DHEA and increase the length of your telomeres. For instance, sleeping on something called a rejuvenatrix, REJUVAMATRIX, solar homeopathy mattress. Just sleeping on that for 1 hour on a timer while you're in bed at night will regrow your telomeres 3.5% a year. Or you can use those high normal human DNA frequencies of 52 to 78 billion cycles a second to stimulate the three major acupuncture circuits, fire, earth, and crystal. And doing that, your telomeres will regrow an average of 3.5%, or putting on fire, earth, or crystal bliss will restore your growth of telomeres 3.5% a year average. Interestingly, adding the other two circuits of air and water do not add anything to length of life, although they have many other physical, emotional, illness help. Like air raises oxytocin, the nurturing, the bonding hormone, even better than fire for depression and anxiety. Water can lower your blood pressure, but also just using boiling the fat, I call it, or boiling the water, we're using fire and water will help you lose, without any other change in your diet, a half a pound to a pound a week. So they all have benefits, and of course, in the long run, losing weight even at that rate is slow, but will help your telomeres regenerate. So the goal is not just telomere regrowth, it's health, well-being, feeling good, being good, and remaining physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually at your peak for as long as you live. Now, personally, I hope, only because I want to prove my point as well as I can, that I can live to that minimum of 20 years promised us in Genesis chapter 6. But I believe by using the telomere enhancement as well as good health habits, we can live 150 to 160 years. I think that's entirely possible from a physiological point of view. And I'm beginning the process, hopefully, of proving that. But I haven't even begun to prove it until I exceed 100 years. So in 11 years and a couple of months, I hope to have proved at least getting past the 100-year mark. Now, I would be open, Lisa and Amanda, to any thoughts or comments you want to make about this rather lengthy diatribe that I've given about healthy longevity.
Well, Norm, I wanted to ask you when you were speaking, because I think it affects so many people, and it's wonderful to have the connection to DHEA. You were talking about the stressors that people have undergone. I'm curious, in your clinic, do you seeing a lot of people with adrenal imbalance, thyroid disease? I know.
I would say if you live in a city with fluoridated water, you have a 99% chance of being hypothyroid.
Okay.
Period. And adrenal burnout, to me, the number one thing is not just abnormalities of cortisone and adrenaline and norepinephrine and all those things, but a deficiency in DHEA.
Okay.
And a deficiency in DHEA, again, in a man is certainly below anything below 600, and in a woman anything below 500.
Well, and I think that it's such a simple solution. You look to so many individuals that are complaining of chronic fatigue and sleep, insomnia or inflammation, and I really think that it goes back to what you're saying about DHEA, and if they were able to.
Now, theoretically, DHEA is allowed over the counter, but I have some misgivings and concerns about taking DHEA without making it. It's safer than cortisone and prednisone, the steroids, but there's some evidence that it could artificially weaken your immune system, especially for developing cancer, for instance. And that's especially of the prostate gland or the ovaries or the uterus. And therefore, but making it, there's no evidence at all. I've seen 2 people only who actually had high levels, that is, above 1,250 in men and above 980 in women. And both of them were among the healthiest people I've ever seen in my life. But they were naturally that high. They weren't taking anything. They just had the oomph, if you will, to do it.
Right. That's interesting.
Dr. Shealy, do you think that people that came from nurturing environments have their body is better at making that hormone because they weren't growing up in like a stressful environment all the time?
No question about it. One study I did one year showed that 75% of the women that were coming into our clinic for the whole year, 75% of them had been sexually abused as children.
Right.
And so, that doesn't necessarily have to be the family. It could be somebody outside the family, but it still is a major abuse, which even the best of nurturing families has trouble coming.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was doing that study, I said to one of the men, Phil, it's so wonderful to see someone who wasn't sexually abused as a child. He said, oh, Norm, I was. My brother jumped in bed and had sex with me.
Oh, my God.
Oh, no.
Wow.
And so sexual abuse can occur in men or women.
Mhm. Yeah. And I guess with men it's less likely to be talked about, so there's probably a higher number than we were even aware of,
Oh, yes.
Just the stigma.
Right. Now, I have a question, Norm. You talk about the natural progesterone cream. Is there a place on the body and a time of day that's best to apply that?
Great question, Lisa. I don't know that the time of day matters. Personally, just because of convenience, it would seem to me that you're going to do it either after a bath or shower, or at least at the very least early in the morning before you put your clothes on.
Okay.
And so I tend to sit on the tub to do my various ring applications, and that's the time when I put on the natural progesterone group. So that's usually late afternoon, but in the morning would be okay.
Okay. And is it applied under the arm?
Well, not if you got hair under your arms.
Okay.
You don't want to put any cream like that to be absorbed into the body on hairy skin.
Okay.
So in general, actually, by the way, for men, I recommend it be put on the scrotum. And the reason for that is men make 1/3 of their DHEA in the testes. That's why we have a third higher level than women do. And so if you're going to make it there, you might as well absorb it right where it can be used.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it matters, as long as it's on good skin.
Very good. And then, so women maybe on their ovaries or?
Well, on the lower belly, yes. In general,
okay.
I don't think most women have hair other than in the pubic area. Anywhere on the lower belly would be fine. But they can also put it on their arms, their upper arms especially are favorite places.
Okay. That's helpful. So for men that are worried perhaps about prostate issues, do you think that this is a good support so that they don't in later life have difficulty with their prostate?
It's one of the top ones. Now, of course, they also need zinc. Men need zinc more than women do. Both of them need zinc. But zinc, and of course, most men, by the time they're 50, are going to need some additional support for the prostate, IgM, salt palmetto, that kind of thing.
Okay.
That is our weakest organ. Just as, in women, I suppose you could say the weakest organ may be ordinarily the breasts or the ovaries, but in men it is the prostate. And most men begin to have some symptoms somewhere in their 50s or 60s with the prostate of frequency and urgency.
Now, is there one of your bliss oils that helps to support that for men as well?
Absolutely, of course. That is, of course, Fire Bliss.
Okay. Yeah, that would make sense. That would absolutely make sense.
Fire energy.
Yeah. Well, that's what you tend to think of as younger men in their, when they're after they've reached puberty. They have a lot of fire energy, I think, naturally. They just, it seems to be a fire, very high-spirited time in young men's lives.
No question about it.
And
as long as it's wisely used, it's great. It's physically, emotionally supportive.
Okay. And now I have a question, and this is, many years ago I had heard quite a bit about pregnenolone being the precursor. So you prefer progesterone to pregnenolone, is that correct?
I do. I have actually done experiments with it, and the progesterone works better than pregnenolone.
Okay, that's great to hear. Because I know the whole hormone, it gets pretty confusing, when to know to supplement. And then, for women especially, anybody that has had challenges with breast cancer or ovarian cancer, you hear a lot about staying away from soy because of the phytoestrogens. Do you see that some of the overuse of soy, like processed soy products, affect women's DHEA or their hormonal levels?
Yes, but actually, even though it may be estrogenic, it is not DHEA-ogenic.
Okay. That's interesting. Yeah, I in my practice, I've worked with several women that have been out of balance with ovarian cancer, and very happily, are doing extremely well. Both chose to, use a combination of holistic medicine after the modern poisons didn't really help them. They were fortunate to be able to find some wonderful nutritional support and some other things to help keep them healthy.
Well, health is a state of consciousness as well as a state of physical and biochemistry, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sometimes it's harder to fix the spiritual part, I think, is where some people are really struggling. They don't realize that their physical ailments are really stemming from something going on energetically.
Oh, no question about it. I mean, to me, life itself is holy.
Mm-hmm.
The creation
Absolutely.
of life is holy. The living of life is holy. And recognizing that the creation of the universe is holy. Again, the measurement of that, to me, the most easy measure of that is in scalar energy. I don't fully understand it. I've read lots of stuff from physicists, but they don't describe it in terms that I can understand, except all empty space in the entire universe is filled with scalar energy. And in that empty space, right outside you, right around you in the room here, in empty space the size of a helium molecule, which can't be seen with the naked eye, in that empty space is enough energy to boil the world's oceans. Not ocean, all the oceans.
Wow.
Now that, to me, is power. And imagine that infinite throughout the universe. That's the power of God.
Right. But I was fortunate to have studied with a Hawaiian kahuna, and the word aloha means the breath of God is in us. And in the Hawaiian culture, they believe that all healing occurs in the fall and the crest of the wave. And that's exactly what you're speaking about, Dr. Shealy, is that space, that, the space between the cells, all of that where miracles happen. And I'm sure in your years of practice, coming on 50 years of holistic medicine and holy medicine, that you've witnessed many miracles that have really touched your heart. Do you have any favorites that you would be wanting to share with us?
Unequivocally. In 1974, a woman in her 50s came to me for controlled pain from metastatic cancer. Her oncologist said she had 3 months to live. She couldn't walk, she couldn't stand, she couldn't get out of bed. She was flown in by ambulance, air ambulance. And on the 17th day, I did an exercise on forgiveness. 20 minute long exercise on forgiveness. And this woman got up and walked out of the room free of pain.
Wow.
For the first time since she'd been there. It took 3 months for her cancer to go away, but it did. It disappeared with no further intervention.
That's incredible.
A year later, I was flown out to Los Angeles to talk at the hospital where she'd been unsuccessfully treated with chemotherapy and radiation. And she picks me up at the airport to drive me to the hospital, and she says, during that exercise, I suddenly realized how much I hated my husband because of the way he was treating me. And she said, I forgave him, and interestingly, when I got well, he committed suicide.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, my.
Because he couldn't understand her getting well. Now, that's a double miracle in a sense.
Wow. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Now, when you suggest an exercise like that with your patients, is there resistance? Or in her case, was she just so broken that she was willing to accept anything that you were able to offer her?
Well, it really is. She was in a room. We had 50 patients in the room.
Oh, okay.
And when I finished the exercise, she was the only one who didn't come back. She was lying there still in a trance, essentially. And I went over and congratulated her on being so deep and counted her up, woke her up, so to speak. And that's when she got well.
Oh, my goodness.
So it was just an effect of being that deep into meditation. But it had to do with forgiveness.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Perhaps on one of our episodes we can share that exercise. Do a special.
Yes. No question about it. Absolutely. But there's so many ways of doing it. There's so many successful ways of doing it. Among other than autogenic training, my next favorite, to some extent, is Emil Coué's concept. Every day, in every way, I am better and better. Just saying that, interesting, how simple. Every day, in every way, I am better and better. Just repeating that aloud or in your mind over and over and over again is healing. But, of course, I now have 68 different variations of verbal ways to train the brain.
It's a blessing. It really, it absolutely is. I had somebody ask me the other day how I was able to, cope with so many different things coming at us from various news sources and the anger that seems to pervade society right now. And I said, I'm detaching. And one of the greatest gifts that I've been giving is the autogenic exercise that I practice in the morning and last thing at night. It doesn't matter how tired I am. I make that time. It's my gift to myself. And I know, Amanda, that's become part of your routine as well.
Yeah.
What types of things have you noticed since you've been practicing the autogenic exercise?
So, Norm, I was not blessed with a nurturing environment growing up. So I almost am one of those people that my trauma led to my spiritual awakening, and it really, I've been lost though still, and it wasn't until I met Glenn this year, who brought me to you, where I've really been able to heal from my abusive childhood. And I'm one of those 75% of women that was also sexually assaulted more than once. So, I have become a better mother, a better wife, a better just person. I've been able to let go more. It's still an everyday work in progress, this journey, but I don't know that words can express the gratitude I have and just the utmost respect in getting to just talk to you and be on this journey and this earth with you at this time. It's unprecedented, and I never really believed what was going on this whole time with everything, because I already knew the corruption and understood kind of what we were dealing with. But I still had my own, darkness within me that I hadn't dealt with. And I had done some meditations last December that had helped a bit for me to kind of break out and, start healing my chakra centers and connecting to really that higher purpose within. And your autogenics training, though, has really put, it over the top for me. And for my kids, they ask me to sing to them every night before they go to bed, and then when I go to walk out the room, they always ask for Dr. Shealy now. So, yeah, you're kind of a star in our house, and I can't stress enough to people, if they haven't tried it for themselves, to just try, let go of that self-doubt and that just the thing inside you that says you're not worthy enough to be healed and to be loved and to be connected, and just give it a try, and you will see the results. And I really believe that the more people that find you, the more healing this planet will find, and we will overcome anything that's, standing in our way of being love and being spirit.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that, Amanda. To me, of course, the only purpose of any life is to help other people.
Right.
And whatever you do that helps other people is equally good. My help just happened to have to do with healing the physical, mental, emotional. But I couldn't do it without the people who built this phone, this house, this chair I'm sitting on, etc.
Right.
I admire the Amish, for instance. This week I had an Amish couple who came in, and they have no electricity, but they're happy and doing okay despite the lack of electricity. And I don't know how I could do what I do without electricity. But thanks to Benjamin Franklin, essentially. Basically, to some extent, he was, I think, to some extent, the foundation for thinking about modern electricity that was eventually brought in by Edison.
And perhaps in our lifetimes we'll see the technology brought in by Tesla as well, and we can all enjoy free energy.
Now by the way, do you know what Tesla energy includes?
No.
Human DNA frequency. 52 to 78 billion cycles a second at a billionth of a watt. That is basic human DNA frequency.
Oh, I have goosebumps on my goosebumps when you're saying that, Norm. That's amazing.
And that, of course, is what I mentioned in the Rejuvenatrix mattress. That puts out 52 to 78 billion cycles per second at only a billionth of a watt. That's only a billionth of a watt. But that's enough to rejuvenate your telomeres.
You use a Tesla tower for one of your PEMF machines, do you not? Or you can hook it up to get like an extra, or am I mistaken on that?
The Tesla machine is the one that runs the Rejuvenatrix.
Oh, okay.
The PEMF device, my favorite of all bioelectrical creations, is the Gamma PEMF device. It is the only one that puts the brain into gamma. It is the only one that treats severe anxiety well. It is better than all the psychiatrists and all the psychiatric drugs in the world for treating anxiety and depression and addiction.
Right. And that's what you did the pilot study for opioid addiction, correct?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, for anybody that would like
that along. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to say for anybody who wants to find out a little bit about it, can go on realholistic.com, and that's realholistic.doc.com. Go ahead, Amanda. I apologize.
No, it's okay. I wanted to ask if you used, with that pilot study, were you using your bliss oils in conjunction with that, as well as the autogenic
only
training?
The PEMF device.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Now, in clinical practice, I would recommend everything, including bliss oil. But for the study, we did only the Gamma PEMF device.
That's amazing.
And
that would be so amazing to get out to the public. Like, oh my gosh, could you imagine just being able to help everyone?
The addiction centers, which keep you for 1 month to 3 months locked up, essentially, have only a 17% success rate.
Yeah.
I have 100% success rate in treating addiction.
Mm-hmm. And that's without any other medical intervention, because they usually end up at methadone clinics or some other drugs that are prescribed for, because most of the time addiction is because of trauma in childhood. It's like mother and father wounds, and it really gets back to, having a nurturing childhood. If you didn't have that, then you're kind of set up for some sort of spiritual adjustment, if you will, I guess, call it, when you're in adult life.
Absolutely. Totally concur. But remember, one of my many aphorisms, of which I have lots, every thought is a prayer. Every word is a prayer. Every thought, every word, all your thinking, if you use it properly, is spiritual. And if you use it improperly, it's anti-spiritual.
Uh-huh. Very true. Very, very true. So for those of us, our audience who are just joining us on PRN FM with Dr. Shealy for the first time, you're in for a treat because about this time in the show, we asked Dr. Shealy to share with the audience his autogenic exercise. Norm, would you be so kind?
I love it. And, of course, if you're driving, please do not participate or pull off the road to stop the car safely. If you're home, just make yourself as comfortable as you can. Close your eyes and take a deep breath and let it go. And always start the exercise by scanning, getting the sensory feedback from your body. Every part of your body slowly from the top of your head to the tips of your toes. Does each part feel good and okay and relaxed? Be aware of any part that is out of balance, where there's tension or no feeling. And then repeat the words in the pauses that I give you. As you breathe in your mind, not with your mouth, with your mind, say, my arms and legs. And as you breathe out, are heavy and warm. My arms and legs are heavy and warm. My arms and legs are heavy and warm. My arms and legs are heavy and warm. My heartbeat is calm and regular. 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 My breathing is free and easy. 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 My abdomen is warm. My abdomen is warm. My abdomen is warm. My abdomen is warm. My forehead is cool. My forehead is cool. My forehead is cool. My forehead is cool. My mind is quiet and still. 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 I am at peace. I am at peace. I am at peace. I am at peace. Once again, get the feedback, the sensory awareness from each and every part of your body, from the top of your head to every part down to the tips of your toes. If any part of your body is not at peace, talk to it specifically, to that, and to that just say my, and name the body part, is well, is comfortable, is free, is at peace, whatever word you choose. And then you may wish to say rejuvenate, knowing the word means replenish, regrow, refresh, rejuvenate, and speak to that part of your body, to every cell in your body, to regenerate, because it has the ability to do that. And then take a deep breath. Open your eyes, stretch comfortably, being at peace.
I think it's so important for people to remember how innate it is for their body to heal and regenerate itself. I think sometimes we forget that we were designed to do that and to live, in perfect balance within ourselves and within the earth. And so that word is so strong and so powerful if you use it, and your body will listen and follow along.
And remember, every cell in your body, even the brain cell, is actually replaced in a maximum of 7 years.
Mm.
That's why we use the telomeres, the tips of DNA, to replace the cell when it's worn out. And if you're healthy, you replace it with a healthy cell.
If it's unhealthy, does it replace with an unhealthy cell? Is that how they keep multiplying? Yeah. Okay.
If you've already damaged the cell and don't do the things that can help it regenerate totally, it will be replaced with an already malfunctioning or sick cell.
Okay. Yeah.
But we have the ability to be flexible, to be plastic in a sense, in replacing it with a healthy cell, as long as we provide it with a physical, mental, emotional, and chemical healthy environment.
Mhm.
I think that's why the autogenic training makes such a profound difference. I know you've helped over 34,000 people, which it just is astounding to me that you've over 50 years you've had such an impact on so many people's lives, and what they've learned from you they've shared, and that I think is so important. When you're given the gift like that I really truly believe that what you've shared through autogenics is a gift, and I try to share it with as many people, and I know that Amanda does the same, and that when you do it's passing it on, and it's good. That's what makes this world different, and that's why I think both Amanda and I, Dr. Shealy, feel it's so important to share your work, because there are so many profound teachings and the wisdom and so much knowledge that it's time. It's really, we've been dumbed down for too long, and this needs to be in every school, and we need to allow people to live a long, healthy, vibrant life. As you said, there's a difference between living to 100 and sitting in a chair watching TV versus living to 100 and being out and being vibrant in a garden and engaging in conversation and doing all the things that make life worth living, laughing and smiling and just being happy. And
that is why we call it youthful longevity.
Yeah.
Staying youthful as you age.
Yeah. And I want to just say one thing about you and your youthfulness is your smile. You have one of the most infectious smiles. And I know that, when we share that gift with somebody else, it really is healing. So that must have been a part of you, I think, even as a child. Did you come in smiling?
I don't know about that. I've not asked my parents about that aspect of it. But again, because I had such loving and nurturing parents, I had a reason to smile.
That's nice. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Yeah, and I think that's what's been the shame of all of this nonsensicalness about being masked up, because we haven't been able to share in that smile, with other people. It really does. It changes the world. A smile is an act of kindness, and I would encourage everybody to do that. And also your laugh. I know that you have that wonderful exercise of laughing that can shift. Did you say that affects the DHEA as well?
Absolutely, it does. We haven't done a year-long study of it, but we've done a 20-minute study of it. If you just and you keep that up just for 5 minutes, it will immediately boost your DHEA.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's a fun exercise. You're going to have to try that with your children, Amanda, and get back
I
to
know.
us
They'll
next
probably
week.
just laugh at me, so it'll be great.
That would be nice. Yeah. We'll have to, get that on.
Maybe I can record it and see what they do. React to me laughing. We got a kitten today, so they're pretty happy as it is today.
Good.
But yeah, the kids are the thing that is going to change the world. Is the more of us that heal, the inner child within ourselves that's kind of been hurt, and we bring that to our parenting skills, then it'll help heal the next generation. That's really what I really see your work doing is being brought to another level for the youth, and to bring your wisdom to all the other generations that, are getting kind of, I don't know, steered the wrong way, I guess is the nice way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, my dear friends, it is always a great pleasure to speak with you.
Yes, absolutely, and we so appreciate you, Norm. You can learn more about the Shealy Thorn Wellness Clinic at realholisticdoc.com. That's realholisticdoc.com, and we so appreciate you joining us here on PRN-FM weekly with Dr. Shealy. And will you leave us with some beautiful words of wisdom?
Well, always one of my favorite is, and the walrus said, it is time to speak of many things. And the many things are, in my opinion, all light, love, and spirituality. Be at peace.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. And blessings.
Thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Yes, have a great week. Blessings.
Thank you.